On the Porn Sacrifice channel today, I'm going to be converting this power steering rack from a 944 to a manual one. Now, the reason for doing this, well, first of all, why wouldn't you have just a manual rack for a track car? The ratios aren't fast enough. So similar to gears on a bike, to make the manual rack easier to turn, it's geared lower so that actually it's more turns lock to lock, but what that does mean is that you're having to put less effort in to be driving that. And the reason I'm not running this as a power one is the faff of just hooking everything up to the engine, but also it puts drag on the engine as well. And having just driven this unpowered, it's no great dramas, especially when you're on the move and at track speed. So that's why I'm basically going to be going through this process. For this, I'm actually going to be following some instructions rather than trying to work it out myself. What I had done previously is essentially just taken out the power steering pump and just looped it round so that it is actually getting a feed through for lubrication. But if I can strip all of that out, just get everything plugged up and greased so that it's purely manual, it's going to be a lot simpler, a lot more straightforward, and I'm not going to be having fluid leaking all over the place. So we're going to be following some instructions, so I'll just get those up and then get started. The one thing I have done, which I'll just quickly show you, is just remove the track rod ends or the tie rods. So I've removed those from the inner side. I've seen some instructions which just say do that, but nobody quite shows how it's done. So yeah, here's that, and just removing a few of the lines. So the key here is just to knock these pieces out. Essentially this is to stop it from unspinning normally, and what I'm going to do is just label these left and right so that I'll put them back on the same order, the same length, so it shouldn't make any difference, but this is how the steering was set up previously, so I want to try and keep it the same. Everything's stripped off, laptop's fired up. I'll put a link below to the instructions that I'm using so that you can go and do this offline without having to have the instructions to hand. So essentially it's just kind of strip everything down. There's a couple sleeves inside here which the fluid pushes against, and that's how it does the power resistance. Those are the things that we need to remove. And once that's done, what I'm going to do is have a look, see how this strips down. With my current obsession, I'm not sure where the videos are at the moment. I know there's been a long gap, but with my obsession with getting everything painted, so I'm going to go through. This is all starting to look a bit grotty and there's surface corrosion and what have you. So I want to get that cleaned up and then painted as well, and then get on with the reassembly. Everything is now dismantled down into its component parts. So I need to just have a look. I think it is the seal that I need to move, or remove rather, is just on the end here. So I need to get that off. But other than that, I think it's fairly straightforward. The instructions that I'm going to share are slightly wrong, because they're for a later rack, so they're not wrong, they're just not applicable to this one. One of the things which I have seen is there's some sort of locking pin or something apparently as part of the mechanism between the in all of this, which some people weld up. I can't quite see it, and I don't think there's enough play really to merit faffing around with that. so I'm not quite sure exactly what it is people are trying to achieve there, but yeah, I'm quite happy with the way that it was. I realised I just gave a little speech and this was a lot quicker than I was expecting, but essentially those are the circlips that came off the washers from inside there, and then that's the main bearing piece. I assume that with the pressure of where it's being pumped around, that's what helps to move everything along. So here we have, so that's being painted. Those are going to be cleaned up a bit more. That's all nice and shiny. And inside, that'll probably, I might clean the plate up for that one, and then just paint the track rod ends as well, but overall it's looking pretty good. More painting, this time the centre section of the steering rack. The thing that I need to do first is I need to plug these holes up, which I can do with bolts, that's fine. But this one and one of the ones on, so the one on the top here, they just had, and I can't find it now, I'll find it as soon as I've finished filming this, essentially a plastic pipe that went across. I think it's just some sort of breather, because it's just a push fit rather than a bolt in. So what I'm going to do is tap those so that I can get a M12 in there. With the millions of holes now blocked up, it really does seem a ridiculous number, but all of these things are plugged. The screws that I've been, or the bolts that I've been putting in, are metric, and I think they're a slightly different fitment to the actual banjo fittings that were in there already, which is why some of them are going in quite tight, which is probably a good thing. I've put Loctite on them just to basically hold them in place, any that might want to come loose, but also to stop anything from seeping out. So what I need to do now is just basically go through, grease everything up, and then reassemble the rack, and hopefully it's all going to go back together relatively easily. So there we have a rebuilt steering rack ready to go back on the cross member as soon as that's in. I've also got a rebuilt or repainted shaft, although I've started to damage the paint already. Hopefully it'll just look a bit neater, certainly on the rod ends. The main thing going along was making sure that this is even, or even enough to be able to get that back in. All the holes are now plugged. Hopefully the Loctite will just dry nicely and that'll be done. What I had done is I put a washer in the wrong place, so just made sure that worked okay. With this, don't force it down. I did use a rubber mallet just to tap it in, but it was tapping it in. I wasn't using force to drive that home. So that's all done. Hopefully the plugs will all work. There's one or two washery type things which are missing, but I think, well, my assumption is that they're more for stopping high pressure fluid from spurting out everywhere. There doesn't seem to be anything that's missing in terms of, or there isn't anything missing in terms of holding everything in place and together. So absolutely boiling hot now, but that's another job quickly done, or relatively quickly done, and these things are now starting to come together. So yeah, pleased with that, and on to the next one. Thanks for watching.